Take this, you must wear it before going to the palace. This will transform you into a queen.
Imagine you in your house, having the best time of your life, living like a princess in your own father's house. And in just one day, everything changed, and now you are living like a slave in your own father's house. This is the story of Morenike. She was always working. She lived inside the kitchen of her father's house. She did not have a bed. She slept on the torn mat on the floor, right next to the big cooking pots. The floor was always cold, and the smell of the smoke was always in her hair. She heard a loud noise. Morenike jumped up. That was the sound of her stepmother Iyabu hitting a wooden stick on the ceiling from the upstairs. "Morenike, you useless girl! Are you still sleeping?" Iyabu shouted. "The fire is dead. Come and blow this fire before I reach there." Morenike's body was heavy. She was young, but her back always pained her like an old woman. She ran to the fireplace. She knelt down and started blowing the ash with her mouth. Phew, phew! The grey dust flew up and entered her eyes. It entered her nose and it even covered her face. This was why people in the village called her Omo Idu, the child of ash. She did not look like a fine girl anymore. She looked like a shadow. By the time the sun came up, Morenike had carried 20 heavy buckets of water from the village well. Her hands were rough. The skin on her palm was peeling because of the strong soap she used to wash clothes every day. She set the table for breakfast. Her two step-sisters, She and Tiwa, walked in. They were wearing expensive lace and silk. They looked fresh, like they just bathed in milk. Morenike shifts. She screamed. She covered her nose with a small cloth. "You smell like burnt wood. You want to spoil my appetite?" "I'm sorry, Sister She," Morenike said. She looked at the ground. "Don't call me sister." She slapped the table. "I am not your sister, you dirty servant." Tiwa laughed. She took a piece of fried yam, beat it, and then dropped the rest on the floor. She used her expensive leather shoe to match the yam into the dirt. "Oh, Morenike, look," Tiwa said with a wicked smile. "The floor is dirty. Kneel down and scrub it. Use your hands." Morenike did not cry. If she cried, the tears would only mix with the ash on her face and make her look even more dirty. She knelt down and started cleaning the floor. She watched their beautiful shoes. One of those shoes could buy food for a whole month. But Morenike was always hungry. In that house, Morenike was like a ghost. She cooked food she was not allowed to taste. She washed fine clothes she was not allowed to wear. Suddenly, they heard a loud trumpet from the king's palace. A man was shouting in the village square, "Listen, people of the land. The prince is looking for a wife. Every young girl must come to the palace tomorrow night for a big party. The prince will choose the girl that is pure and kind." Morenike's heart jumped. She looked up from the floor. Maybe this was her chance to leave this suffering. But Iyabu, the stepmother, laughed loudly. She looked at Morenike with bad eyes. "Morenike, why are you looking like that? You think the prince wants to marry a girl that looks like charcoal seller? Go to the river now. Take your sister's expensive wrappers and wash them. If I see one small stain on that cloth, you will sleep outside with the goats tonight," she said. Morenike gathered the heavy clothes as she walked through the village to go to the river. People were pointing at her. Some people felt sorry for her, but others just laughed at her. "Ash girl," they say. She reached the river and sat on a cold rock. She looked at herself in the water. Her face was dark with ash. Her skin was messy. She looked tired. She tried to wash her face, but the dirty was deep. She felt like the suffering was now part of her skin. She did not know that someone was hiding in the bushes, watching her. Morenike took a deep breath and started scrubbing the clothes. Her fingers were becoming numb from the cold water, and her heart was very heavy. She had washed many wrappers, and her arms were shaking. She was tired, hungry, and her heart was hurting. Suddenly, she heard a small sound in the grass. Morenike turned her head. She saw an old woman coming out from the bush. The woman was very old. Her skin was like the bark of an old ancient tree, and her clothes were torn. She was limping, and she looked like she hadn't eaten for days. The old woman fell down near the water. "My daughter," she groaned, "please help me. I am so thirsty." Morenike forgot about her own pain. She forgot that her stepmother told her to hurry up. She ran to the old woman and helped her sit up. Morenike took her small drinking bowl, filled it with clean water, and gave it to the woman. The old woman drank the water slowly. Then she looked at Morenike's face. "You have ash on your face, my daughter," the woman said softly, "but your heart is as bright as gold." Morenike sighed. "The ash is part of me now, Mama. I am just a servant." The old woman reached into a small dirty bag she was carrying. She pulled out a waist bead. But this was not an ordinary waist bead. The beads were dark, like a color of the earth. They had a tiny glow inside them, like a trapped fireflies. "Take this," the old woman said. Morenike was confused. "Mama, I cannot take this. My stepmother will take it from me and sell it." The old woman smiled, and few teeth were very white. "No, this is a secret gift. This bead is for your skin, not for people to see. You must tie it around your waist, under your rags. As long as these beads touch your skin, you will not be the ash girl anymore." Morenike took the beads. They felt warm in her hands. "Listen to me," the old woman warned. "You wear these beads, they will give you the beauty of 1,000 stars. People will see a queen, not a servant. But you must be careful. No human hand must touch these beads except yours. If any man or woman touches this bead, the magic will break, and you will become a shadow again." The old woman also gave her a small dried leaf. "When you are ready to go to the king's palace, chew this leaf and say your name. The bead will do the rest. But remember, you must leave the palace before the first cock crow at dawn. If you stay too long, the beads will turn into common stones." Morenike looked down at the beads, her heart beating fast. When she looked up to thank the old woman, the river bank was empty. The old woman was gone. There was only the sound of the wind in the trees. Morenike quickly tied the beads around her waist, hiding them deep under her dirty wrapper. Immediately, a strange warmth spread through her body. For the first time in years, her back stopped aching. She felt strong. She felt beautiful. She gathered the washed clothes and started walking home. She didn't know that the beads under her clothes were already starting to glow. The day of the king's party was like fire in the house. Everyone was running up and down. "Morenike, rub oil on my back," she shouted. "Morenike, iron my headgear. It must be sharp like a knife." Tiwa yelled. Morenike did everything. She rubbed the oil, She tied the headgears as she polished their shoes. Her stepmother Iyabo was busy painting her own face with heavy powder. They all looked very grand, like peacocks. "Mama, can I go?" Morenike asked. The king said every girl in the village is invited. Iyabo turned around and laughed. She laughed until tears came out from her eyes. "You? To the palace?" Iyabo pointed at Morenike's dusty feet. "Look at you. You look like a charcoal we used to cook soup. If you enter the palace, the guards would think a beggar is trying to steal meat. Stay here and wash the pots. That is your own party." They all left the house in a grand way, laughing and singing. Morenike was left alone in the silence, dark kitchen. But Morenike did not cry today. She felt the warmth of the magic bead around her waist. She went to the back of the house and took her bath with cold water. She cleaned the ash from her face. Then she took the small dried leaf the old woman gave her. She chewed it. It tasted like honey and rain. "My name is Morenike," she whispered. Suddenly, the kitchen was filled with bright golden lights. It was so bright she had to close her eyes. When she opened them, she screamed softly. Her dirty rags were gone. In their place, there was a wrapper made of finest ashoke anyone had ever seen. It was the color of the deep blue sea, shining with silver thread. Her headgear was tall and perfect like a crown. But the most amazing thing was her skin. She didn't need powder. Her skin was glowing, like she was standing in the sun. She looked at her hands. The cracks were gone. Her fingernails were clean and pink. She looked like a princess from a storybook. But she knew the truth. All this beauty was coming from the secret bead under her fine wrapper. Remember the rule, she told herself. Nobody must touch the bead, and I must leave before the cock crows. She stepped out of the house. A carriage made of woven wood and flowers was waiting for her. It even had to move by itself. As she reached the palace, the music of the drum was loud. Every girl was standing in the hall, hoping the prince would look at them. She and Tiwa were there, forming big girls, but nobody was looking at them. Then Morenike walked in. The drums stopped. The people stopped talking. The prince, who was looking bored on the throne, stood up suddenly. "Who is that?" the people whispered. "Is she the daughter of a king from another land?" Morenike's stepmother and sisters were standing right next to her, but they did not recognize her. They always saw a girl so beautiful that it pained their eyes to look at her. The prince walked down from the throne. He walked past the rich girls. He walked past the chief daughters. He stopped right in front of Morenike. "I have been waiting for you," the prince said. His voice was like music. He reached out his hands to lend her to dance floor. Morenike hesitated. She remembered the old woman warning. No human hand must touch the beads. She took his hand. She made sure she held him only by his fingers. She kept her body a small distance away. She was beautiful, yes, but she was also very careful. They began to dance. The palace was glowing with 1,000 oil lamps. Morenike was dancing with the prince, and it felt like she was dreaming. Every time she moved her blue ashoke wrapper, shimmered like the surface of a river. The prince could not take his eyes off her. "I have lived in this village all my life," he whispered. "How is it that I have never seen a flower as beautiful as you?" Morenike smiled. She did not answer. She knew that if she spoke too much, She might reveal her secrets. She moved her body to the sound of the drum. The magic beads around her waist were humming. They felt warm against her skin, giving her the power to stand tall and proud. But while the prince was in love, others were full of hate. In the corner of the hall, Sheyi and Tiwa were watching. They were biting their nails in anger. "Who is this girl?" Sheyi hissed. "Look at the way the prince is holding her. He hasn't even looked at us once." "There is something strange about her," Tiwa said, narrowing her eyes. "Look at her skin. It is too bright. And look at her wrapper. I have never seen that pattern in the whole of Yoruba land." The two sisters started to follow Morenike and the prince around the dance floor, hiding behind the big pillars of the palace. They wanted to see who she was. As the music got faster, the prince tried to pull Morenike closer to him. He wanted to whisper something in her ears, but Morenike quickly stepped back. "Wait, my prince," she said softly. "Why are you acting like you are afraid of me?" the prince asked. "I only want to be near you." Morenike felt a cold shiver. She remembered old woman's warning. No human hand must touch these beads. The beads were tied around her waist, just under the clothes. If the prince hugged her too tight, or if his hands slipped to her waist, the magic would break right there in the middle of the party. "I am not afraid," Morenike said. "I am just shy." But the sisters were watching this. They saw how Morenike was protecting her waist. They saw how she moved every time someone came close to the middle. "Did you see that?" Sheyi whispered to their mother, Iyabo, who had joined them. "She is hiding something under her clothes. See how she is holding her waist." Yabo's eyes became wicked. Maybe she stole something. Maybe she is a thief carrying the king's gold under her wrapper. The sisters began to hate Chipla. They didn't want to dance anymore. They wanted to humiliate the stranger. They started to move through the crowd, coming closer and closer to Morenike from behind. Morenike was so busy looking at the prince's eyes that she didn't see her sisters creeping up like snakes in the grass. Suddenly, a sky outside began to turn light shade of grey. The night was ending. "Cuckoo!" The first cock crew in the distance. Morenike's heart stopped. "I must go," she cried. "Wait," the prince shouted. "I don't even know your name." Morenike turned to run, but she reached out her hand to grab Morenike's clothes. She wasn't trying to stop her. She was trying to see what was under the wrapper. The sound of the cock crow was like a gunshot in Morenike's ears. "Kokoroko!" The magic was starting to shake. "I must go," Morenike shouted. She pulled her hand away from the prince and turned to run. But the palace hall was crowded. People were everywhere, dancing and drinking. Morenike pushed through the crowd, her heart beating like a trapped bird. "Stop her!" she screamed from behind. "She's a thief. She's hiding something." Sheyi and Tiwa were fast. They were driven by jealousy. As Morenike reached the big wooden door of the palace, she leapt forward. She didn't grab Morenike's hand. She reached for the back of Morenike's waist, thinking she would find stolen gold. Sheyi's sharp fingernails caught the edge of the blue ashoke wrapper. She pulled it hard. Morenike felt a cold snap. The shrink of the magic bead, the ones that gave her all her beauty, was caught in the struggle. The string broke. The beads didn't fall. They scattered on the palace floor like falling stars. The moment the beads left Morenike's skin, the magic died. In 1 second, the beautiful blue wrapper turned back into dirty grey rags. The golden glow on her skin vanished. replaced by black soot and ash of the kitchen. Her tall head get turned into a messy pile of unwashed hair. The whole palace went silent. The music stopped. The beautiful queen was gone. In her place stood the ash girl, smelling of smoke and looking like a beggar. "I knew it," she yelled, holding up a piece of torn rags. "It is Morenike, the dirty servant of our house." The people started to laugh. "Look at her. She used juju to deceive the prince," someone shouted. The prince stood at the top of the stairs looking down. His face was full of shock. He didn't see the girl he danced with anymore. He saw a girl covered in dirt. Morenike's eye filled with hot tears. This was the shame she had feared her whole life. She didn't wait to hear another word. She turned and ran out into the dark morning, her bare feet hitting the sharp stones of the road. She ran until her lungs burned. She ran until she reached the river, where she met the old woman. She fell on her knees in the mud, sobbing. "I am sorry, Mama," she cried out to the trees. "I broke the rule. I am nothing again." She looked down at her waist. Every single bead was gone. She was just Morenike the ash girl again. But back at the palace, the prince was not laughing. He walked down the stairs slowly. The people moved out of his way. He reached the spot where Morenike had been standing. The floor was empty, except for one thing. One single bead had rolled into a crack in the floorboards. It was still glowing with a tiny warm light. It was the only piece of magic left in the world. The prince picked it up. He felt the warmth of the bead, and he remembered the kindness in Morenike's eyes before the magic broke. "Find her," the prince said to his guards. His voice was low and serious. "But my prince," his father the king said, "she's a liar. She's just a kitchen girl." The prince looked at the small glowing bead in his hand. "The clothes were a lie, father, but the way she held my hand, that was real. Find the girl who belongs to the bead." The village was silent the next morning, but the palace was loud. The prince did not sleep. He held that single magic bead in his hand all night. It was still warm. It was still glowing. Every house. The prince ordered his guards. "Check every girl. The girl who belongs to the bead will recognize its heat." The guards moved from house to house. They went to the houses of the chiefs. They went to the houses of the rich traders. Many girls tried to claim the bead. They lied and said they lost it. But the moment the bead touched their hands, it turned cold like a common stone. The bead knew its owner. Finally, the guards reached the house of Iyabo. Inside, there was confusion. Iyabo had locked Morenike in the gold pen house behind the house. "You will stay there until you die of hunger," she screamed. "You have brought shame to my name." When the prince himself walked into the house, Iyabo and her daughter knelt down quickly. "My prince, you are welcome," Iyabo said with a fake smile. "My daughters have been crying all night because they lost their jewelry at the party." The prince held out the bead. Sheyi tried to hold it. She grabbed the bead and she screamed and dropped it. "It's too hot. It's burning me." She lied, but the bead was actually cold and grey in her hand. Tiwa tried next. She rubbed the bead, trying to make it glow, but it stayed dull like a piece of charcoal. "Is there no other girl in this house?" the prince asked. His heart was sinking. "No one, my prince," Iyabo said quickly. "Only a dirty servant in the back, but she's a thief and a mad woman. You don't want to see her." Suddenly, a small voice came from the back of the house. It was a song, the same song the drummers were playing at the palace. The prince pushed past Iyabo. He walked to the smelly goat's pen and broke the wooden lock. Morenike was sitting on the ground. She was covered in more ash than ever before. Her hair was full of hay. She looked miserable. But when she looked up, the prince saw her eyes. They were the same eyes from the dance floor. "You," he whispered. "I'm sorry, my prince," Morenike said, her voice shaking. "I have no fine clothes. I have no magic left. I am just Morenike." The prince knelt in the dirty. He didn't care about his royal robes. He took Morenike's rough, cracked hand and placed the single bead in her palm. The moment the bead touched Morenike's skin, something wonderful happened. The bead didn't turn into a dress. It didn't bring back the carriage. Instead, the bead started to melt. It turned into a liquid light and flowed into her skin. Suddenly, the ash on her face began to fade away like old scales. Her skin started to glow from inside, not because of a spell, but because the magic was now part of her forever. She was still wearing her rags, but she looked more beautiful than ever before. She looked like a goddess of the earth. The magic was never the truth. "Morenike," the prince said, "the magic was you." The stepmother and sisters fell to their knees, shaking with fear. They waited for Morenike to tell the prince to kill them or throw them in prison. Morenike looked at them. She remembered the years of hunger, the slaps on her face. But then she looked at the prince and she felt the warmth in her heart. "Let them stay in this house," Morenike said softly. "But from today, they will wash their own clothes. They will cook their own food. They will learn what it means to work with their own hands." The prince smiled. He took Morenike's hand and led her out of the house. The whole village gathered to see. They didn't see the dirty ash girl anymore. They saw their new queen. As they rode away towards the palace, Morenike looked towards the river for a second. She saw an old woman standing under an iroko tree, waving her hands. Morenike touched her waist. There was no bead there anymore, but she felt a warmth that would never leave her again. She was no longer a ghost in her father's house. She was Morenike, the queen who rose from the smoke. I hope you enjoyed that story. The moral lesson of this: you take this home. A true queen does not fear ash. You can see Morenike's beauty did not come from her expensive wrapper. It came from her soul. Treat people well, even when you have nothing. Because you never know if the beggar you are helping today is the one holding the key to your palace tomorrow. Be kind, stay real, and your own magic bead will find you one day. Please like, share, and comment for more stories like this. Thank you very much.